This podcast is proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. talkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Styles with a save. To the second here. A classic counter-attack, and Gibbs White puts Nottingham Forest 2 ahead. Here's Wood. 1-0 Forest. Has made an even bigger difference there. Nottingham Forest have snatched the lead at Anfield.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Red Side the Trent, the last of 2025. We've come to a New Year's Eve, the day after Nottingham Forest 2-0 home defeat to Everton, thanks to goals from James Garner and Thierry Barry, which means Forest have now lost their last 3 games in a row in the league and are just 4 points clear of the drop zone after West Ham's result last night. They drew with Brighton. Joined by Reiss and Lee Clark. Firstly, guys, how are you? Reiss, will start yourself.
Aside from the result, mate, yeah, I'm enjoying the break, I think is fair to say.
Lee, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm not enjoying the break quite so much because I'm back at work today and I've got to cover that shit show that we had. So, aside from that, I love Christmas. So, yeah, I'm enjoying the family time more than the football, I guess.
Yeah, it is a very fun time of the year. Or at least it tries to be anyway. I mean, I went back on Monday, to be fair. I was back Monday, Tuesday, and then I'm off today, tomorrow, and then back on Friday. Very weird work schedule this time of year. I think it's just commonplace, I think, in it, with those who have their annual leave saved up and those who don't. I put mine towards Forest in Europe, so that means I have to work a little bit over the Christmas period, so vice versa. But we'll start with last night. Reiss, obviously the team, there was one change. It wasn't the change we were all expecting. We all expected Douglas Luiz to start ahead of Dominguez, but instead Zinchenko came in for Savona. Otherwise, same team as Manchester City. What did you think to
that? A bit of a surprise, I guess, because Zinchenko, I don't think is particularly rated by, I think, probably all the fan base. Really, I don't think anybody is a big fan of Zinchenko. But you know, Savona we brought in as a backup, didn't we? He's played a lot of games, so it might have just been a case of just maybe rest and rotate last night. The disappointment in that is that Nico has to move over to the right back position where it's just not as good as for me. I guess if, Forest thought if Jack Grealish was playing, to be fair, Nico would probably deal with him better, but he didn't start. I expected Luiz to come in for Dominguez. I thought it was probably more of a Luiz and a Dominguez game last night because, Luiz has just got that bit of extra bite, I think, and he can actually get on the ball and play a bit more than Dominguez, as much as I like Dominguez. Dominguez is, like, for me, perfect for a Man City game because he's going to press, he's going to be high energy. But, I just don't think Luiz is quite there, is he, fitness-wise? So I guess that wasn't a surprise as well. But the rest of the side really picked itself, didn't it? We know there's certain players on that bench who just aren't going to play. I wouldn't say I was massively shocked by the team. And to be honest, I've been crying out saying we need to rotate. So I didn't also mind Zinchenko coming in last night against, let's be honest, a depleted Everton side.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I felt that the Savona one, I suppose you could say he's been a bit as well. He probably needed a game out, to be fair. I think more than anything else. I think he's started to decline ever so slightly in the last few games. Like we said on the weekends, like he against City, the good things he did were very good, but the bad things he did were very bad. So it's not, and it was similar against Fulham as well. So him coming out, isn't really the worst thing in the world. It's just obviously, that midfield change was a little surprising. Lee, when you saw the Everton team, by contrast, with no Gay, with no Grealish, with no Ndiaye, with no right back really, Patterson playing there. I think
no Dewsbury Hall.
No Dewsbury Hall. You must have thought, surely this is as good a chance as anyone will get to sort of beat Everton for the first time in 30 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, much like the Fulham situation, though, they were pretty depleted, weren't they? But I guess football doesn't always work like that. I suppose their 2 centre-halves have always been, I think, the since we got promoted, we've not beat Everton at home, have we? So the common denominator there is that they've always had the big guys at centre half, and for some reason they just seem to do a number on us all the time. But yeah, I think I looked at their team and thought it was a really good opportunity to just put on a bit of a show and just. I mean, Reiss called it in the build-up. We usually have one good performance and one really bad one. Well, we had our good performance in a battling defeat to City, and lo and behold, we followed it up with we stayed true to form, didn't we, in terms of Dyche's time here? So, yeah, it was another missed opportunity. But this season's, well, certainly the last few weeks, we've had that's 2 or 3 missed opportunities now. So the worrying thing is, it's another night as well when West Ham have not won. I keep saying it, they're not going to keep not winning West Ham. I know they're a basket case at the minute, but what they do have that we don't is Jared Bowen, Lucas Paquetá. When they turn up, they're going to beat teams. I mean, now I've said that, they'll probably go and lose at Wolves on Saturday or something. But I see a little revival from West Ham, whoever's the manager there, whether it's Nuno or whether he ends up going and someone comes in. I just do see a little revival there. And the worrying thing now is that it's another... Because obviously, if we'd have won last night, we only go up one place, but all of a sudden it puts another team in the firing line for West Ham to catch. Whereas at the minute, if they do book their ideas up, it's us that are going to slip in there. And have we seen anything from our lot that suggests we're going to get out of it this time? I'm not sure we are. We're not seeing it, are we? So, yeah, it's a worry.
Yeah, no, it's a very real concern. I mean, that West Ham game next week, it's very plausible that we lose to Villa at the weekend, they beat Wolves. Or even draw with Wolves, to be honest. I mean, I know Wolves got a good result last night. They have started to sort of stem the tide a little bit, I guess. They were very unfortunate not to be to get anything at Arsenal. Obviously, the first Arsenal goal shouldn't have stood in that game as well. But we're in a very real position where they could go level on points or not above us this time next week, which is a huge concern. So, yeah, I mean, but Reiss, we started. I mean, the game started. Forest immediately looked quite sluggish, like you said, true to form, really. And they started to eventually sort of get through that. They started to sort of, knock the ball about a little bit. It started to sort of, without doing too much, just swinging the ball in aimlessly towards a centre-back pairing, average height of 6'5" against a 5'10" striker, which, surefire way of success that, isn't it? But despite doing that for about 10 minutes, Everton then eventually managed to get a break. McNeil slips in Jimmy Garner, who, as we've seen in front of Trent in a few times, scored a few crucial goals. Did exactly that, didn't celebrate. What were you thinking at that moment in time?
I mean, just to touch on like Lee's point with the Fulham and last night, if we'd have performed how we did against City, against Fulham and Everton, we probably would have beaten both. That if we had that level of performance. And I said, I was speaking to your dad once at City, and he says, "Oh, we're crying out for some consistency." And I said, "Yeah, we have it. One good performance followed by one bad performance." And that seems to be the trend, doesn't it, at the minute? So it wouldn't surprise me if we go to Villa, actually play pretty well and maybe fall valiantly to defeat like we did against City. But look, once I saw the Everton team, me, you and Danny Tring, who comes on the pod, we called it in the group. We knew what was going to happen. We saw they were depleted. We know what Everton bring when they come to the City ground, hence why we've not beaten them since we've been promoted at home. They're going to make it tough. They're going to be organised. They're going to make the game scrappy. They're going to make it a fight. And if you're not up for it, 9 times out of 10, Everton will turn you over. And that's what they did last night. Because, like you said, Christian, our one tactic was just crossing it to O'Brien, who's a giant. I mean, he must be, 6'6", maybe?
6'6", yeah.
Tarkowski, what's Tarkowski? Early 30s, vastly experienced in this league. That's exactly what Milenkovic for us would love all night. Them crosses just to head that ball away all night. That's what happened. And then, for their goal, Garner's kind of floating on the edge of the area. He then attaches himself to Gibbs White, and then he just drifts off him. McNeil slips him in. Great pass, to be fair, from McNeil. And it's a good finish. You guys know, we all did, didn't we? But I love Jimmy Garner from that promotion season. I wish we would have been patient enough to sign him. I know Man U messed us about, but when you look at signing the likes of Kouyaté, in my opinion, who were never going to be long-term at the club, I wish we would have waited. I mean, he was a man possessed last night. He was the best player on the pitch by an absolute mile. And he was probably their only bit of quality and why they won the game. He set up the second as well. You know, for a striker, I know that Barry scored, but he looked off it all night as well. And we gave him one chance, as we did at the Hill Dickinson. He scored. And, that's it just really, really disappointing and poor, mate, all night long. Just no tactical plan apart from swinging the crosses in. I think it was Analytics Forest, I think, put it on Twitter. I think it was 59 crosses with 9 successful. And I think 5 of them were from Nico Williams alone. So really, really poor.
Yeah, it was 53 attempted crosses last night.
53.
Second highest in Premier League this season. Premier League game this season. 9 were successful. I mean, I'd honestly consider sacking him for that alone. Being genuinely serious. That is abject, absolutely abject. How can you see that time and time again, the same tactic clearly isn't working? Clearly not working. Clearly try and up the tempo, get him behind them a little bit. And you go, no, we'll keep doing that. It'll come off. Who does
insanity,
that? Who does that? Like, it's just bone dead. It's just, for God's sake. But Lee, I mean, you called it when you said in the build-up, you said we need to make sure we don't concede early. Otherwise, it'll be exactly the same as last time. 20 minutes into the game, and what happens? It's just,
Yeah, I mean, Everton are the masters at that, aren't they? I mean, I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. That it's the worst-case scenario going 1-0 down against a team that's depleted, and they're going to protect their lead at all costs, aren't they? I mean, the more baffling thing about the crosses situation is that how many years did Dyche manage Tarkowski for?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it's just, I just don't get it. And then the thing that really annoyed me, and we've got to be consistent with our critique here, because one thing that really annoyed me under Andrew was that the press conferences were all about him. And when there was any criticism thrown at his tactics and his game plan, he went super defensive and kind of, we are trying. Well, Dyche was very similar on the radio last night. I thought, we are trying to keep probing. Well, you're not, because everyone in the ground could. I mean, someone made a good point, like, I would never ask fans to boo, but I was a little bit surprised that the fans didn't get a little bit noisier when we kept putting crosses in to Tarkowski and O'Brien's head, in the sense of, expressing your displeasure, but it was just baffling. I just don't get it. I mean, I did actually think we'd changed something at half time, because for the first 5 minutes of the second half, the wingers had obviously swapped over, which in itself is not a great idea because it means they can't cut in and shoot themselves. But it made me kind of think, well, maybe we are going to put some crosses on the floor. We did it about 2 or 3 times, and then lo and behold, we thought, I don't really fancy that. Let's get Tyler on and start pumping it even longer. I just didn't get the game plan or anything. It was just baffling from the off. For the moment they scored, to be honest, because I think we started that badly. We didn't start great, but we didn't start that badly. But for the moment they scored, it was much like when we had Cooper during the beginning of the end for him, in the sense that when a team scores against us, you just don't presume we're going to get back into a game, because the plan B is do plan A better, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah, it is a huge concern. I can't lie. I mean, Reiss, as Lee alluded to there, obviously we made a few changes at half time. Louise came on for Dominguez, obviously the winger swapped. So Hutchinson went on the left, Hudson on the right. Immediately led to a few corners. Again, that was probably a preferable outcome for Everton. I thought, they're like, all right, they're not going to hurt us from this. But it was just frustrating because you actually saw like the wingers try to get him behind and try to actually make them turn, make Tarkowski and O'Brien turn, put them in uncomfortable positions. And we saw it did have some positive effects, like when they caused pinball in their own box and Jesus flashed one just past the post, for example. And then, like they said, we just stopped doing it and just went back to type very quickly. Why? I don't understand why. What logic is there for doing that?
Because we brought Tyler on is the reason why, with half an hour to go after an 8-minute cameo against Manchester City where he didn't even touch the ball. We thought, let's bring Tyler on, and let's be honest. We've repeated it so many times as pod. We love Tyler for what he did the first season, start the second season, mate. But Tyler should have probably been moved on at the start of last season, and was still trying. And it was, people were laughing around me last night at that cameo, because he couldn't even control the ball, mate. It was, you know, I watched it. I hate to bring him up, but I watched Derby the other day against Birmingham. He won't get in their team. He would not start for a championship side. And we're bringing him on to try and save the game against Everton, because the method is, let's pump it into the box or pump it long and hope something drops. And I just can't see why we continue to do that. I mean, there was one he put across the floor, didn't he? And he tried to control it. He couldn't control it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
You know, and then fair play to Colin Frey. He asked about Callum Owendo. I mean, it's clear Callum Owendo is going to go, hence why there's a lot of links come up. But I just can't, whatever, even if he's absolutely crap in training, Callum Owendo, I cannot legislate for bringing Tyro on instead of him. I just can't. And it's like we get this report from John Percy saying they really like McAtee. Can't get on the pitch last night. I mean, we saw it with Ange. When people get desperate, they just chuck anything at the wall. Hence why Ange started Tyro in his last game. And it was like, yeah, well, we'll bring Tyro on, see how he gets on, who we know. I mean, he must watch him and on the pitch and think, Jesus, this is painful. And then he brought Baku on, and I actually thought, you know, Baku was quite positive personally. And I noticed a comment there saying he couldn't cross. I actually thought Baku would come on and actually showed something. And we've got to realise the lad's just come back from a long-term injury. You know, he's going to be one we're going to have to build up over time. He was unlucky, I thought, with the shot/cross, what went just wide. Lovely bit of skill there. So I guess it's good that we've got someone we can bring off the bench who can make an impact. But as soon as Tyro come on, I thought it'd finish 1-0 at half-time. I said in the group, we on Dan Skate's prediction league, Christian had a loss because we just knew what was coming last night. You know, and then once we brought Tyro on, I just thought, yeah, this is just going to, they're just going to head and kick it away all night. And we actually pushed more. We was leaving gaps at the back. We started to look leggy because this lack of rotation against City's caught up with us probably 3 days ago. And that's why they completely opened us up with an easy move. You know, when have we seen a player turn Murillo as easy as that? Never. And Garner turned him and literally from probably 10 yards inside our half, he literally split our whole defence. Zinchenko jogging back, not goal side of Barry, clean through on goal. And yeah, it was a terrible performance, mate. As you know, as bad as we've seen all season, really. And you know, we can moan at whoever, Ange, Dyche, but the players as well, mate, have got to take responsibility. It's not good enough from a certain, you know, players, but some of them just looked out on the feet. I thought, like Jesus last night, we were speaking about it in the group. I just thought he looked knackered from the off. I mean, Elliot Anderson, he's obviously had a dip in form, but again, we've got to realise the lad's 23 years of age. He's played so much football. He got no break in the summer, and we're even bringing him on against the likes of Malmo and Utrecht. You know, we had to bring him on to try and win the game. So it's just, yeah, we need some players, unfortunately, short term, because I think Dyche will be here till the end of the season without a doubt, in my opinion. We need some players that he's going to trust from off the bench, because we're starting to look a bit leggy, in my opinion. And that's worrying, bearing in mind we've got a massive game coming up after Villa with West Ham.
I'm not so sure he stays, you know. I genuinely think...
a fourth manager would be ridiculous.
It will well be, yeah. But I honestly think, and WC Analysis made this point, actually, how McAtee and Callum Owendo move in January will be an indicator as to how they see Dyche behind the scenes. If they both move early into the first week of January, then yeah, he probably will see the season out at the minimum. If they're still here by the time we play West Ham, then he's in big trouble. Because they'll see us behind the scenes and think, actually, hang on, this isn't quite working like we thought it was. Because like I said before, there's losing games, right? We all know, like, it's part of football. No one likes losing, but it's just part of the sport. You're going to lose games. No one wins every single match. It's how you lose the games in question. Because the only positive last night I can take is that West Ham didn't win. Because we were shit in every aspect last night. Every single aspect last night. Every single player, no more than the 5 at best. And that was the same when we lost to Everton 3-0 at their place. It was the same when we lost to Fulham, the 0-0. We lost a 0-0 that day. It's the same every time we lose. Brighton for half an hour chasing shadows on our own patch. And then we get into the game and give away a stupid goal before half time. In every single defeat,
Yeah, one since as well.
Yeah, in every single defeat this season, you know, you look at it and think, Jesus, this is awful. Apart from the City game, in which you can look at look at the officiating, whatever else, but it's not good enough, and that's not sustainable either. You can't have performances where you take literally nothing from them. If Dyche's game plan isn't right, we lose, and we lose badly. There's no in between.
Well, like you said, Christian, it's the manner of the defeat. I think against City, I think most fans would have been pleased with. Obviously, not happy with the result because we lost the game, but I was pleased with the performance. I thought for a bulk of that game, we went toe to toe with a side who were going to be in a title race this season, who had been the best side in the country the last 10 years or whatever. Like I said earlier, if we'd have put on that level of performance last night, I thought we'd have won the game, and we would have got a result at Fulham as well. It's just like you say. It's so up and down, the consistency of the performances. And, some fans, and they've got a point, are saying, certain players, it seems, can only get themselves up for big games. Whereas when we play the teams who are probably down at the bottom of the league, no disrespect to Everton, but they're a bit of obviously not a free-flowing football side, aren't they? They're organised, tough to beat, hard to break down, etc. You're going to beat Everton most times. You're going to have to battle to beat them. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's as if like, oh yeah, we'll show it because Pep's watching and Arnie Slot might be watching, or Tottenham might be watching. Obviously, thinking Gibbs White, but then we play the teams who are around us, and it's like, well, we think we're better than these, and it's like as if we've got to just turn up to beat them. Well, it don't work like that in the Prem because everybody's got quality at the end of the day. Even if it's in little splurts, like last night with Garner, Jimmy Garner, God, he's not George Elokobi strength levels, is he? He bullied our midfield last night, Garner. Absolutely bullied him. And fair play to him, because I like James Garner. It was just painful watching it because it was for the opposition.
I think what gets me is that Everton team was bad. There's no way around it. It was a bad team. If you'd said to them before the game, shake hands for a draw, they'd have run away with that. They'd have ran away with that. And because of our manager's incompetence yesterday and the diabolical tactics he produced, they've left with all three. That's unforgivable for me. That is absolutely unforgivable for me. They were barely better than Malmo, and we've given them 3 points and 2 goals. They were absolutely shite. I'm sorry, they were, and we were even worse. That's even worse. That's what makes it so frustrating.
The funny thing is, it reminded me of the game up there last season where we, 2 bits of quality, the Elanga to Wood lob wanted, and then we got Gibbs White scored into a cut inside. I think it was Decore, obviously smashed it past Pickford. Their tactic that day was just to basically play attack to the right, which I think it was Tarkowski at right centre back, and just boom it long. And we just headed it out every time. It was Milenkovic and Morata wanted that day, and we just headed it out every single time. And you went that day, didn't you, Christian, as well?
Did, yeah.
We were rubbing his hands in the away end, say, yeah, we'll have this for half an hour because Milenkovic will just head it out. And that it's just seemed a similar kind of idea last night, which, like you said, is strange because Dyche knows Tarkowski. I know he didn't play O'Brien much last season, but he knows he's a massive defender. So he knows about these players, you know what I mean? And the tactic was just keep booming it into the box, really. And yeah, like you said, 9 crosses out of 53. And I mean, let's be honest. I think the best one was where Hudson-Odoi should have done better at the back post at the Bridgeford end. But there was one we mentioned in the group where Jesus actually won the header. It dropped down into a good area in the box and nobody was there, and it just cleared it. Now, it's all right putting it into the box and hoping for knockdowns, but when there is a knockdown, you've got to have somebody on the end of it. And there wasn't there. And to be honest, we've kind of missed Sangare in that sense, haven't we? Because he was against
Big
Leeds
time.
and Tottenham, actually box crashing, to be fair. Oh, we can, because we've won 5 games in the Premier League this season, and it's not just him, but we've won he's started in them all. So I thought we missed him last night. We did, because he's one of our on-form players at the minute.
Missed it massively, mate. But
obviously that don't mean if he was playing we would have won, because you can't have that many players playing that poorly and winning games. It's just not going to happen in the Prem.
No chance. Lee, obviously the goal in question, like Reiss alluded to, Garner sends Moreno for a hot dog pretty much. It's a gorgeous turn. You have to give credit where it's due. It's a fantastic turn. What I have issue with is afterwards, because it's a straightforward ball to Barry, who is somehow 3 yards ahead of Zinchenko but onside. He's just watching him just run past, and then he's in 1-on-1. It's a goal before it's even hit the ball. What was your take? And were you still in the grounds when he actually put it away?
Yeah, I did. Just to put it on record for those who like to take offence at that sort of stuff, I did actually stay till the end last night. I don't know why. I just fancied it. I just fancied staying till the end. So
I stayed until the board come up because I actually thought if we got one back, because there's still a lot of time, wasn't there? You thought you could maybe get back in the game.
Weirdly, just to go off on a tangent a little bit, I actually stayed till the end, and I think it paid dividends because I saw how many people were leaving from the Trent, and I thought if I go now, it's going to be like the game's finished. So if I wait till the end, it probably will be quieter. So that was the method in our madness. We kind of like, well, it is 2-0. If we get one back, we probably won't. But hey ho. Back to your original point, the goal. I think since you've mentioned Zinchenko, just to give my opinion on his performance last night. And this will be unpopular. I don't think he was that bad. We know that Zinchenko is poor defensively. When we signed him, we said he's not very good defensively. And that goal that they've scored highlights that perfectly because he's got no kind of awareness that there's a player ready to just kind of creep in behind him and have a one-on-one with the keeper. The issue I do have a little bit with is last night was obviously a big game, as we've touched upon so far. His first cross of the night was actually pretty good, as most crosses were last night by a number of players. It was headed clear. But it was one of I think his first one, it kind of did go back to Hutchinson, I think. And it wasn't a bad ball. It was quite probing. It was away from the keeper, in swinging. As soon as he'd kicked it, there was a collective groan from the Bridgeford stand. And it's like, the Brian Clough stand, sorry. And it's like, what more did you expect him to do there? It was just a teasing cross into the box. And I just think it's a shame now because we're on about rotation and Zinchenko's, when it comes to fullbacks, mind you, Aina will be back in January, I suppose, won't he? But at the minute, certainly last night to rotate Savona, it was Zinchenko coming in. And with him, you can just tell that it doesn't help the atmosphere. I'm not saying the atmosphere improving would have helped us win last night because the game plan wasn't there from the manager. But I just don't think it helps a group of players who are already down on the confidence. The confidence levels are on the floor. You've got a player who's not really played much football, who's been injured himself. He puts an half-decent crossing and you've got everyone moaning and groaning at him. I just don't think it's helpful at all. I think I could understand if he'd pinged it straight into the bloody rosette or something with his first touch of the night. But like I say, I didn't think it was that bad. But in terms of the goal, yeah, that's what we expected with Zinchenko, sadly. He just switches off, doesn't he? It's like he can't wait to get into midfield. And when he's on the ball, he's pretty neat and tidy in possession of the ball. It's just when you're a left back in a team like ours that sets up like we do, fundamentally you need him to defend, and he doesn't do that very well.
There was a few booed in pre-game in my end when his name got read out, and I'm just thinking, come on, for goodness sake. Yeah, if he's had a stinker, it happens in football. It's not ideal, people getting booed, but we know how it goes, football. I just thought that was ridiculous, personally. People booing before we've even kicked off. I just don't understand that.
Do you know what? I don't know if this. I don't want this to sound holier than thou, but I just think we've had this conversation before in our group chats about now we're 4 years into this Premier League journey. I feel like a lot of the more working class supporters that were watching us in League One and getting behind the team at all costs, going to Chester, going to Salisbury, going to Weymouth. Poor performances, all-timer poor performances. I feel like they've kind of been priced out a little bit now. And maybe there's an argument that a lot of the fans that are getting hold of these tickets are maybe going because we're playing an Everton, we're playing a Man City, we're playing... Again, if I'm badly wide of the mark, then so be it. But that's got to be one of the factors why the atmosphere is so poor week in, week out. And what I would say is I don't think Forest are unique in that sense. I think other clubs who... You talk to other fans, and I talk to Newcastle fans, and sometimes they say that it's not quite as good as it once was, as passionate as they are. And I don't know. I just think that's got to have something to do with it, I think.
It might be a bit of like...
I do think those, yeah.
It might be a bit, sorry, Christian, it might be a bit of like tongue-in-cheek booing and having a laugh, but look, the atmosphere comes from on the pitch. I mean, when you're watching that on the pitch last night, and I know you mentioned earlier, Lee, about you didn't think the crowd was vocal in terms of showing the displeasure. There was, in my end, people weren't happy, and, you know, getting frustrated. And it got to a point, like I said, when Tyro come on, people just started laughing because, you know, it was just that embarrassing. You're just looking for someone to put in a thunderous tackle or just a bit of, you know, spark up a bit of energy with the crowd. And we just kind of got that, nothing like that last night. And, you know, football's changed, hasn't it? You know, we're now at a point where, you know, we're policing songs now, really. What you can't sing, you know. But, you know, that's the way football's and this world's gone, unfortunately, isn't it? It's just, yeah, suck every little bit of enjoyment and tribalism out of everything.
It's just honestly, it was just so bad last night. I'm actually glad that Dyche is starting to get pelters now, because he should be. He absolutely should be. And he should be aware that fans aren't happy with that, because they shouldn't be served that. It's just diabolical. But, you know, you look at what came after, when we touched on it earlier, Backwell, when he came on, we actually saw him for more than 3 minutes this time. That's quite nice. I'm sure his reward for looking quite lively against Everton will probably be a 3-minute cameo again at the weekend. Probably when we're losing as well, just for good measure, because who needs to use their bench, right? And again, there's no point. That's basically the game after that second goal in, and we didn't test anything. There was one more across the box that Taiwo was far too slow to get to. Any other striker in world football probably gets that ball, especially the ones that we have at our disposal. But of course, you know, can't even blame Taiwo for that. It's the manager. The manager put him on. It's his decision. You live and die by the swords. Pathetic management again. And you look at afterwards. I mean, what got me was Dyche said after the game that we lacked cutting edge. I was like, yeah, no shit, we lack cutting edge. You told them to fucking cross the ball 50 odd times and to 6-foot giants. Honest, I'm at a point now where I know it sounds ridiculous, it sounds very Watford. If he was to be sacked tomorrow, I wouldn't even care. We cannot give this man January. We cannot give this man an actual transfer window to let him buy a bunch of cloggers that aren't going to do a job. We've got players there that are good. And we can see that by the links. I guess you look at Frankfurt, for example, looking after Calamawendo. Frankfurt have sold, what, £400 million worth of strikers in the last 5 years. And they want Calamawendo, someone who can't get a minute with us, on basis of what Dyche said was, oh, you know, we look at a data in training. What data are you looking at, Sean? Is it who can take down a 7-foot high ball?
Yeah, I'm not fussed about what they're doing in training, because I just don't buy that personally. Because
he doesn't fancy him. He's not small enough to play a system. That's it. I thought
that was an excuse personally. I mean, yeah, he's saying about stats and that. Like I said earlier, Tyro scored 1 goal in nearly 50 games. We've given
He's been in a reduced coma since his last goal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's not even a joke. That's a genuine fact. Like, his last City ground goal was January 2024. And he's the answer.
It's going to be 2 years, isn't it, now? I mean, you know, and I know it's Utrecht and Malmo, but Calamander's got 2 in 3. And to be honest, you know, I think it was Pat who made the comment in the comments. Would have probably brought Calamawendo on last night and would have oofed it. And that's no good for him.
Of course he would have done, yeah.
You know, it would have been more... They've been meat and drink more for Tarkowski and O'Brien if they saw Calamawendo coming on and think, oh, God, if these are going to ping it. You know, a lot of fans are saying, yeah, well, you know, we don't suit our style and that. Look at the goal against City. On the floor, lovely move. You know, we created a great goal. You can't just play one style of football and just boom it into the box and cross it into the box. You know, I mean, we will end up signing players for Dyche in January, whether they're permanent or loans, I don't know, because I think he'll be here till the end of the season. And to be honest, he's come in, Dyche, and I know we're frustrated about it last night, but he steadied the ship. Let's be honest, it's been a mess all season, and that stems back to the owner, unfortunately, with his decision to appoint Ange, to appoint Edu, who, you know, Nuno chucking his toys out the pram. You could argue he should have been cleared out a lot quicker. We allowed that to fester. You know, we then appointed a manager who's not a good fit for us. We had a bulk of games there, we lost ground in. We gave him an extra game against Chelsea, which should have never have happened. And, you know, Dyche has come in. He's living up to his reputation. He's a firefighter, isn't he? He's come in, he's steadied the shit, he's got us some wins. There is going to be games where, because of his style, we're going to stink it out. But this is where we're at. We're in a relegation fight. And like I said, I think he's going to stay to the end of the season. We've got to give him some tools in January because we're thinking short term. We can't think long term at the minute because it's just about.
We cannot do
But it's just about staying in this league, mate. Because we
sign
cannot.
cloggers like McNeil and Dobvik. Great, we'll go down anyway.
If they come in on loan, mate, to the end of the season, I know I don't agree with it as well long term, but we're thinking short term in a minute because it's just about staying in this league. We cannot go down. Going down would be a disaster. It would. It would be an absolute disaster.
I saw last night, we're going down anyway.
Well, yeah, we're in the relegation fight. There's no doubt about that. And I've seen countless. Oh, we'll be okay. And it's like, get real with the situation we're in. Because, if you go by the form book, you'd expect West Ham to go to Wolves, in my opinion, probably win, or at least get a point, put some free behind us. Then we're going to West Ham. They'll think, well, Forest are struggling. We're at home. They could be on, level on points. And then we're going into January where we've got 2 extra games in Europe they haven't got. We've missed chances. Leeds have got a couple of points above us and now got a game in hand. Bournemouth gained a point on us last night. I think that put them 4 or 5 above us. We let Fulham get out of the mire because we lost to them. They followed that up with a win at West Ham, where they're mid-table now. So this is a reality, and there'll be short-term thinking because it's just about staying up, is the truth. And, we've all said on this pod, there's been, when we've won games, it'd be lovely to go on a bit of a run and get to mid-table. It just isn't happening, is it? We're just not consistent enough. And this is the season now. It's going to be a scrap, and we need to, if Dyche is the man, what the club think till the end of the season, which I think he will be, we need to get him a bench what he can use, because we can't go back to how Nuno was last season, using the same 14 players every week, and they're just burnt out. And we fell apart at the end of the season because we were just shattered, and players were playing with knocks. We're going to be bringing Ola Aina in. I think, can he play at Villa, Aina? I mean, if he can, he'll be straight in. He'll be straight in because we need him back. But he's coming back from a long-term injury. It's going to take him time. I know fans are hanging the hat on Chris Wood. Another long-term injury. The guy's 34 now. Let's be honest, the goals towards the end of last season dried up a bit for him. So, look, there needs to be a plan in place in January, and the club have got to make sure they just stay in this league, and that is the plan. And I know it's short-term thinking. We all want to see players develop, but we're in this mess, and that's, in my opinion, that is all what matters at the minute. It's just staying in this league. As frustrating as that is, mate, and I'm frustrated.
What I can see happening is, in true Forest fashion, like I said to you before, Callum will go to Frankfurt on loan, probably start banging in 10+ goals in half the season. McAtee will go to Strasbourg and probably do quite well out there as well. And then come the end of January, when we've lost to West Ham, we lost to Villa, and then he sacks Dyche anyway. And he'll probably hire someone, a more progressive manager, who think, actually, I could quite do with a channel running striker or a techie attacking midfielder. They sound like my sort of players. I've got Dwight McNeil. I've got some absolute 6'6" clogger up front. Great.
To be fair to McNeil, he played a better pass than any of our players last night for the first goal. I know that.
Right, he plays well twice a season. Every season it's against us.
Against us.
He's absolutely. Again, that Everton team were an inch of a post away from losing at Burnley at the weekend. Same team, and we've let them take the piss out of us. It's an. Lee, what do you think? My head's still on Mars. It really is.
I must admit, my screen is smacking between you guys. How I look at it, I think I'm kind of with you both. I'm kind of in the perfect position for how I feel on this Dyche situation, because I think Reiss is spot on. 4 managers is an absolute farce, but at the same time, the issue that Dyche has is we never draw. We've had 1 draw against United in the Prem. If and this is where I kind of go into feeling like I'm siding with Christian a bit, because if, as we expect and most people anticipate, we're going to lose at Villa, if we then go and lose against West Ham, that's 5 defeats on the trot. If we picked up a point against Fulham and a point against Everton, it's still a poor run of form, but it's not 5 straight defeats. And those 2 points would probably just have us sat still above, heads above water. Whereas if we keep losing, it goes back to the Ange situation. Marinaki's going to look at it and think, well, that's 5 defeats on the trot. Then we've got Arsenal at home. That could be 6 defeats on the trot. All of a sudden, you're thinking, well, I don't know what I'm going to do here because we've got to stay in the Prem. So I come back to your point, Reiss. We've got to stay in the Prem, and we've lost 6 on the trot, and we're in the relegation zone. So is now the time to make the change? I think the issue that's going to cloud everything in the background is the fact that the window is open. And again, that's where I tend to agree with Christian a bit. I think we'll get a good indication as to how Marinakis is viewing everything with what happens. If Kalimwendo and McAtee go straight out, then I do fear that Dyche will be here all season. Whereas if we kind of hold on to them a little bit and see if they get some minutes with the FA Cup coming up as well, which we're probably going to have to toss off after last year's good run. So it's difficult. I can't stamp my colours to the mast and say I think he'll be here all season because I'm not convinced he will. If we keep losing, he just needs a few. If he could do a typical Dyche and stop and actually get some draws from these games that are literally nailed on draws, then it might change the landscape a little bit, and it also might change how Marinakis view things. But if we keep having defeat after defeat after defeat, then football's fickle.
Let's be honest as well. Even if we'd have got a point last night in terms of how we felt before the game, that would have still been a poor result. When you've gone to Fulham and I think we said in the group chat would have probably said a point at Fulham. City's one of them. We expected probably none, and then we beat Everton. So 4 points from over the Christmas period. We've got none because we all think. Let's be honest. I know Villa lost last night. We all think we're probably going to lose at Villa. You know,
we'll get the backlash. We'll get hammered at Villa. Play out last night. We'll get absolutely battered at Villa.
We've lost every game there since we've come up, and then like Lee said, what is that? Four losses on the bounce, and you're going into a massive game against West Ham. And then they've obviously got a draw last night. If they go and win at Wolves, they're thinking, right, we've got a little bit of form here. We're at home against a side who's maybe lost 4 on the bounce. But yeah, it's just results dictate anything in football. Arnie Slot was under pressure, wasn't he, this season after winning the league last season when they had an awful run of results. Ranieri got sacked the season after winning the league. But if we have 4 managers in a season, you just can't defend the club there. And they deserve all they get if they end up going down, because that's just any team that has 4 managers in a season. It's just, you look at that as a neutral and think, God, what chaos is going on there? And I know we want to defend Forest, but it's just a farce. And I mean, has anyone ever had 4 managers in a season in the Prem?
I think Watford did. I think they survived.
Yeah,
as well.
and look at what people say about Watford. Absolute chaos with the Potsos running it. They sack managers more than Fawaz did. It's just I said this to a lad on Twitter. Like, we all said at the start of the season, didn't we? We felt this season there'd be a drop off because of the amount of games. Obviously, new players coming in. Would have been happy with mid-table. I remember us getting some stick in the summer by a guy who said that we should be predicting Forest finishing the top 6. But because we all predicted mid-table, we would all been happy on this pod. I know that with mid-table, good run in the FA Cup again, a proper go in the Europa League where we might get to the latter stages, might get to the final, and then you never know. And we brought in some young players. We see them developing, and we'd have probably said, yeah, that's good from this season. And none of that is happening. Because as well, like I say, he's getting to a point again where we spoke about it on the pod continuously this season. Europe's probably going to get tossed aside again. We're going to get in the playoffs. I think that's pretty set now. So there'll be another 2 games. But it gets to a point in that, disappointingly, that I think as soon as we get a half decent side, we'll probably get turned over in that and knocked out because we just can't.
You say that, but I mean, we've taken. If you look at since Dyche has come in, so we've played 3 of the Sky 6. We've won 2 of them. We've scored 7 goals. And
this is what I'm saying here about players getting up for games.
Exactly, it's clearly a mentality issue. I mean, you look at Fulham and Everton. We played them 3 times in the last month, scored 0 goals, and lost all 3. Everton have scored 5 goals this month. They've all come against Forest. It's laughable.
I think that has been a club trend for as long as I can remember, that we always seem to raise his games against better opposition. I mean, how many times have we lost game against, you think back to the Champions days of cloggers of sides, and you think, God, these are awful. They've still beat us. You know what I mean?
You mean like When we beat Leeds on a Saturday 5:30 when it was rocking and then lost at home to Charlton. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I know
like
what you mean.
that. Yeah, exactly like that.
It's funny, isn't it? We rock up at Derby next season as Europa League champions in the Championship. Can't wait. But anyway, before we move on to Slept On It thoughts, let's go for a few of our sponsors. So first up is Trent Side Threads. Obviously, Adam would be debuting the Isle Island one, probably feels here. Just Forest-based shirts and clothing wears, as you can see there. For those you can see, obviously there's Eagle Jesus one and looks like a Murillo one there next to it. Yeah, from Sao Paulo. You can get 10% off as well with the code RSOT. That's with 2 T's. And we also have Vesta Blinds as well. So Vesta Blinds provides stylish, high-quality, made-to-measure blinds and shutters at a great price. So you can give your home the perfect finishing touch with stunning, expertly fitted window coverings from Vesta Blinds. And we don't have a fancy graphic for RL delivery service, but I can confirm he is right here and does a very good job. He's fully insured and his local GB deliveries. Just not even New Year period. Probably delivers better than Forest as well. But
anyway, guarantee. Consistent performances. That's what I guarantee.
Unlike the Reds. But yeah, anyway, we'll now move on to some of your Slept On It thoughts.
Red side of the Trent. Slept On It thoughts.
Playing twice a week in my head. There's no way it is. But anyway, as you can imagine, some of these aren't particularly pleasant, so I'll go from as best I can. So Gary Baldy Nerd said, as soon as he ran them into the ground against City, I saw this coming. No energy, tactically poor, increasingly worried about a fixture list with Europe leading to relegation. Lewis Morris says Dyche has blooded his hands from that. That's outrageous, playing the only way against them that they'd be able to defend till next year from. The way he played while he was there, learned nothing from the away game, and bringing Taiwo on after Cali is a sackable offence of its own. We're in the mire. Bennett says Dyer from Dyche, his tactics, game management, and substitutions will rightly come under severe scrutiny again. He doesn't seem to have the answer to poor sides. Just got to get to the summer above the dotted line, then reassess. Carl Booth said definition of sanity, crossing the ball onto Everton centre half heads all night. Loved Taiwo first season, but he's done. Should be nowhere near coming on ahead of Kamawendo. Poor tactics and game management. Saw it coming after 10 minutes. Too many way off it. Brucey says Vistos on Dyche. Wrong game plan from the start and stuck with it. Starting Zinchenko, bringing on Taiwo, who unfortunately is done at not Premier League quality. K Plus the in function says it looks like Nuno will have to keep Forest up again. The performance of a team whose head coach still thinks it's in pre-season, overworked and underwhelming. Forest will have to really defy the odds to survive the hiring and firing of 3 head coaches. Premier Elliott says we need to learn how to play against mid-table teams. 1 win in 8 Everton games is not good enough. Today's fact is that the village of Villar de Coneja in Spain celebrates the New Year at noon instead of midnight because many of its residents are elderly and want to go to sleep early. I can respect that. I want to sleep for about a week after yesterday's result. NFFC Bod says playing for percentages. Expletive. Arnie says toothless up front. Everton's B team, and we could have played until Old Lang Sang rings out tomorrow and still not scored. Bringing a 1E on, it's effectively going out 10 men. Switched over to darts when he came on and knew it was game over. Massive game next week against West Ham. Mark Baker says Ange levels of management. A man who worked with the defence for 2 years and still have no idea how to exploit their weaknesses. As for bringing on the 1E again, it's a joke. Can't let Dyche anywhere near the January transfers. Honestly, I'm up for manager number 4. Rob says tactically net manager. 48 crosses, 17% finding a Forest player. Persisting with this for 90 minutes is a disgrace. This talented squad is off to the Championship. We do not score goals up front or from midfield. If we can't beat the poor teams around us, we have no chance. Looking onto Facebook, because we're not just a Twitter-only pod. Roland Stork says they cannot carry on like this, expect to stay up. And Eon Carroll says just feel up at this point. The players are getting away with murder on this. We've had 3 very different head coaches, and as a group collectively, they have played for none of them this season. It's about time the players stopped hiding and showed up and put a shift in for 3 points. They're just drifting through the season and into danger and doing nothing about it. Thank you all for your Slept On It thoughts, getting them into us. Yeah, there's no point going through player performances because they're all crap. As far as I'm concerned, there's no point digging them out. I mean, the only one who offered any sort of bright spark was Backwell, maybe Hutchinson. Everyone else is below par. So to wrap off the year, to try and turn some positivity into a very, very negative pod. Although I fear this will make us more annoyed because of what we did have. But Reiss, could you give me some of your highlights from 2025, please?
The top highlight, without a doubt, is qualifying for Europe. Obviously, God, good job in the Champions League with how you're going, isn't it? Jesus Christ. God, I thought I'd never say that. I know obviously we fell off a bit last season, but there was always that kind of nagging in me of thinking, God, the Forest just going to blow it all together and not get any European qualification. Well, we did it, whether that was the Conference League or whatever we want to argue about. So that was the highlight of the year. Obviously, the first game in Seville, playing Real Betis, very, very special. Something I thought I'd never, ever see with Forest. Hence why I decided, as you did, Christian, to go to one of the pre-season games abroad with PSV, with me and you with Valencia and Frankfurt. I think that beating Brighton 7-0 was definitely up there. I said it at the time, but always that bit extra special, isn't it, when you hit, I think, past 6, because it comes up on the old video printer with the bracket 7, and and then numerous of going to Anfield and winning again 3-0. There's been some good moments. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult end to the year with the results, but. It's just a shame how I think they said on Radio Nottingham last night we went into 2025 on the back of 5 straight wins, with the last win being at Everton, ironically, and then they're ending it on 3 straight defeats, battling relegation after being probably start of the year 3rd, ended it in 17th. But you have to look at Europe, don't you? And I'd stick probably Utrecht in there as well, because that was obviously seen as win. On the continent as well, it was very special.
Definitely. Yeah, some great ones in there. Lee, about yourself, what are your favourite moments of 2025?
You covered a lot of the bases there, really. I think Europe's got to be the one. Wasn't something that I thought would be achievable. Certainly, given this time scale, I thought it might come a bit further down the line, but not after 3 seasons. The Man United home game when we won 1-0. Always good to beat Man United. Quite enjoyed the FA Cup semi-final. I think it was a shame we conceded so early. But the whole day of, I'm not a big fan of semi-finals being at Wembley, but, any chance you get to go and watch a game at that stadium is always a big occasion. So that was another fond memory. But, just the stuff that, Reiss alluded to as well, really. But, I do think the European... I'm just disappointed the European campaigns come in a year where I'm chucking every loose bit of change I've got into a tin to go to Australia in March. So slight disappointment, but great for all the fans that have been able to go and certainly ones who are my age, if not a bit younger, who've never experienced this sort of thing before. Actually going out there to games in different countries and that. So it's just a shame. It looks like it's going to be a 1 season thing for now, but that's definitely the highlight of 2025 for me.
Telling you, mate, we're playing Derby next season as Europa League winners. It's going to happen. But, imagine that. No, I think there's a few to add as well. I think beating Spurs away was quite good after our first win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Probably first win at Spurs for probably 30 odd years or so, I imagine. That was pleasing. I think, going to Wembley again, as obviously it was very disappointing to concede in the first 5 minutes, like I said, but it was very special. But I think the European ones, I mean, even just like, I know obviously we drew in Graz, for example, but even just sort of just doing that for Forest, going around the city, so if I was seeing all the sites, whatever else, it's like we're actually here to watch Forest, we're just here for a random city break or anything like that. It's quite nice. Obviously, lucky enough to go to Braga as well in a couple of weeks. Well, I say lucky. But I'll be there. Most of these trips, we'll still have them. That's nuts. I think, like Reiss touched upon, I went to the friendlies because I thought, we'll never get to Europe. This is probably be our peak. But to actually be here in a genuine competition and be competitive, and to actually be doing pretty well. Obviously, beating Porto was pretty special. I think at home. especially after
the Brighton Cup game as well. I know.
Yeah, after being penalties,
winning on penalties.
The absolute disaster of the Midtjylland game, thanks to Ange, to sort of rectify that by beating Porto was quite special, albeit with 2 penalties. But it's such a shame, isn't it? Because like you look at the first part of the year, like beating Man City at home 1-0 and making it look pretty comfortable as well. To go from that to where we are now, losing 3 games in the bounce, 2 of them including to Fulham and Everton, and it's like, it's a pretty big fall. But we'll see what the rest of the year brings, of course, and I'm sure we'll be here to document it as well. But yes, massive thank you to everyone tuning in. Sorry it's not been a more positive one, but on more positive things, I hope you have a fantastic New Year's Eve tonight, and a happy New Year to everyone who's tuned in, subscribed, whatever else. I really appreciate your support and engagement and whatever else. Obviously, we just do this because it's talking Forest for our mates, but it's great that you all sort of tune in with us as well and sort of make it what it is. So massive thank you to everyone for your support over the year. Happy year from all of us. We'll be here on Sunday, I believe, to recap the inevitable Villa thrashing. But until then, enjoy a few drinks. Enjoy whatever you do.
I think it could be Saturday night because it's early kickoff in it, Villa.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll see what we can do for that. But massive thank you again. Happy New Year to everyone. And come on, you Reds.